Joseph got himself ready for the blind date with butterflies fluttering in his stomach. His new co-worker that joined his team in the claims department at his insurance job had promised him the night of his life and had set him up on a blind date with a girl named Sarah. She sounded sweet and fun-loving on the phone, so he agreed to meet her at a fancy restaurant downtown. Upon arriving, he spotted a beautiful woman sitting alone at a table, hair golden and cut in a short pixie bob. She waved at him, and he walked over to introduce himself. They chatted over appetizers, and he was struck by her intelligence and empathy. Sarah was the perfect match for him. As dinner progressed, something felt off to him. He couldn't quite put his finger on it, but he started to feel uneasy, and the room started to sway. Somehow Sarah's demeanor seemed to shift. Her eyes turned a shade darker, and her face twisted into a malevolent grin. He gasped as he saw the other diners' faces change as well. Something was wrong, but he couldn't quite place it. He attempted to stand, placing his hand on the table to steady himself, but ended up knocking the glasses off the table in the process. Sarah rushed to his side and exclaimed loudly, "Oh, my dear, are you sick? Has this place given you food poisoning? I'm getting you out of here immediately." She pulled his arm over her shoulder and dragged him outside. Joseph was stumbling, and Sarah was having a hard time guiding him to her car. A small group of friends were coming up the sidewalk and noticed Sarah and Joseph and went to pass them, obviously on their own way to whatever night they had planned when Sarah called for them. "Excuse me? My boyfriend is rotten drunk," she explained. "Can you help me get him into the car?" The group was more than happy to assist the woman in very obvious need and helped her bundle him into her car, laughing all the while that he had made a right mess of himself. A constant dripping sound brought him back to consciousness. His eyes were heavy and his body was numb. Upon opening his eyes, he found himself lying in an old, rusted bathtub, surrounded by chunks of melting ice. The sight of an ancient dial telephone resting beside him came as a shock. He picked up the note next to the phone with trembling hands. It read, "Stay calm and don't move. You will only harm yourself. The ambulance has been informed and is on its way." Fear overtook him as he tried to stand up. The cold water pierced his skin and he struggled to find his footing. His memory was hazy. He remembered being at the restaurant drinking wine and having a good time with Sarah, but that was about it. How did he end up here in this dingy bathroom? He had no recollection of getting here or why. Placing a foot outside of the tub, there was water on the floor. His whole body went sideways. As his head met the rim of the tub, his lights went out once again. Later that afternoon, as the paramedic sat in her car, she couldn't stop the tears from streaming down her face. Overwhelmed with emotion, she remembered the lifeless body of the organ traffic victim she had found earlier. The tragedy of the situation hit her hard, and she couldn't help but feel angry at the cruel individuals who had perpetrated this crime. As she tried to compose herself, a young woman with blonde hair, cut into a cute pixie-styled bob, tapped on her window. "Lunch?" her co-worker inquired with a look of compassion on her face. The paramedic nodded and unlocked the passenger side door for her teammate, determined to push her sorrow down into the depth of her stomach and not let the job crush her soul again this day.